Hello everyone, Brendan Snyder here. Thank you for joining me and welcome back. If you can't already tell by the AC/DC stuff behind me and of course my AC/DC shirt, we are going to take a look at some AC/DC. In particular, we're going to look at the box set Backtracks. This one here is the standard edition. It is a 2 CD, 1 DVD version and it came out in 2009. Now, this was their second box set. As you can see behind me, Bonfire was the first box set that came out and had a lot of live rarity stuff, but it also had a single disc collection called Volts on it that had some B-sides and things on it. And it also included the album Back in Black in it, as that was a tribute to Bon Scott, and the title of that being Bonfire, of course, was a tribute to him. This one here spans the whole career with both Bon Scott and Brian Johnson on it. Now, a little history about the band. They got their start in 1973 in Australia and were formed by Scottish-born brothers Malcolm and Angus Young. They got the name for the band AC/DC from their sister, who saw the initials of AC/DC, which stood for alternating current, direct current, on a sewing machine. And the brothers, having heard that, thought, wow, that's a great representation for the raw power that they are, and decided to go with it. Now, their first album, High Voltage, came out in 1975. It got the wheels rolling and everything. And then they continued to climb and move up the ranks and everything until ultimately 1979 releasing Highway to Hell, which was a really big album for them at that time. But unfortunately, in 1980, lead singer Bon Scott died of acute alcohol poisoning, essentially ending things there. A lot of people didn't think they'd be able to continue on, or at least continue that upward trajectory. But they found an unknown in Brian Johnson. He came from a little-known band called Geordie, and filled Bon Scott's shoes very well. They recorded the Back in Black album, which came out in 1980, and of course, as we all know, one of the biggest all-time records in hard rock, heavy metal, and just straight up rock and roll. In the US alone, this thing has sold 25 million copies. It's sold many more millions around the world. The band as a whole has sold over 200 million records worldwide. Most pop artists can't even do 100 million, much less 200. So props go out to AC/DC for what they're able to do, especially them being a hard rock and heavy metal band as they are. Now, this box set here, as I said, was actually their second box set to be released. And this one here came in two versions. This is the standard, a 2 CD, 1 DVD version, but there is actually a super deluxe edition that came in a really large replica amp that actually worked, and it had 3 CDs and 2 DVDs along with a book and some memorabilia and things like that. I do have that version, but I'm going to review that one as a separate thing, so keep an eye out for it. Today we are going to focus here on the standard edition. And part of the reason I want to focus on the standard edition is that I feel like this one here trimmed the fat on what came out on that super deluxe edition, and I prefer the edited down version of it that is here. Single disc of Rarities, single disc of live material, with the third disc being a DVD of music videos. Now, that first disc of Studio Rarities has both Bon Scott and Brian Johnson era material on it. Those tracks are, the first one being Stick Around, which came from the High Voltage release in 1975, but the Australian only release of that was not released in the US. There's a number of tracks like that. During, from 1975 to 78, there was a number of albums that were released in Australia with different track listings than what they were here in the States. Got very confusing for a while, and so this box set here actually pulls those tracks that never made it onto the US releases, and we finally have a nice comprehensive package of those here. So Stick Around, that was the first one there. Then Love Song, which is another track off of High Voltage, 1975, the Australian edition. Then Fling Thing, which is a B-side to Jailbreak from 1977. R.I.P., which is from the Australian Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap album in 1976. Carry Me Home, which is a B-side to Dog Eat Dog single from 1976. Crab City in Blue from the Australian Let There Be Rock album of 1977. Cold Hearted Man, which is the B-side to Rock and Roll Damnation, which came out in 1978. And then Snake Eye. This is the first one with Brian Johnson on vocals here. It was a B-side to Heat Seeker, which came out in 1988. The next track on here, Borrowed Time, is a B-side to That's the Way I Want to Rock and Roll, which came out in 1988. And then the track Down on the Borderline, which is a B-side to Money Talks in 1990. And then Big Gun, which was on the soundtrack to The Last Action Hero in 1993. One of my personal faves, glad to see that finally gets a release here. And then Cyberspace, which was a B-side to the single Safe in New York City that was released in 2000. And so those 12 tracks are collected here on the first disc. This is the front cover of it. And there's the spine and the back side, and it's in a cool little slipcase, and it just slides out like this. And then this thing here opens up, and as it opens, you see that it just forms the AC/DC. You get a book in the front here, and then you get the 3 discs like that. Let me flip it over here for you to see the back side of this. You get that. And then it does come with this really great booklet that's here. A lot of really great images and stuff. If you're familiar with the 2003 remasters and the packagings that they did for those, this is done in the same vein. Incidentally, all the tracks here are remastered. Even though this came out in 2009, they are remastered to the 2003 levels to match those 2003 album remasters. So a lot of great images, photos, little bits of memorabilia, record sleeves, and that kind of stuff in here all the way through this book. There's not any kind of write-up or anything like that. There's just little bits of information throughout. It is mostly just a cool picture book in here that goes all the way through their career. And then in the back, it does have track-by-track information on here that gets into where those tracks come from. This was the piece that was on the back side of this so that you knew what was contained in it. I already went through the studio rarities, but I just wanted to real quick read through the live rarities. We have Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap from 1977. These are all live. Dog Eat Dog from 1978. Live Wire, which is from 79. Shot Down in Flames, also 1979. Back in Black, 1981. TNT, 1981. Let There Be Rock, also 1981. Guns for Hire, 1983. Rock and Roll Ain't Noise Pollution, 1983. This House is on Fire, 1983. Jailbreak, 1985. Highway to Hell, 1991. For Those About to Rock, We Salute You, 1991. And Safe in New York City, 2000. So it's a nice span here in the live material going from 77 all the way up to 2000. You get, of course, Bon Scott and Brian Johnson. So nice collection to span all the way through on that. And then the DVD, The Family Jewels, it's got videos for Big Gun, Hard as a Rock, Hail Caesar, Cover You in Oil, Stiff Upper Lip, Satellite Blues, Safe in New York City, Rock and Roll Train, and Anything Goes. And then there's some bonus videos that are on here for Jailbreak. It's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll. Highway to Hell, You Shook Me All Night Long. Guns for Hire, Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap Live, and Highway to Hell Live. And some bonus features on here, The Making of Hard as a Rock and The Making of Rock and Roll Train. So it's really quite a great collection. As I said, what I liked is that it trimmed the fat. Instead of it being the studio rarities and having too much filler on it, they edited that down, and instead of 2 discs of live rarities, it's a single disc. I preferred that, so I actually picked up both of these. This is my preferred version of the box set Backtracks as opposed to the Super Deluxe, but as I said, I do have that, and I will eventually review that, so keep an eye out for it. All right, hope you enjoyed this, and if you did, please remember to comment, like, and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts, and I hope everyone has a great day. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.